If you're trying to change your life, you'll watch this video. Today, we're talking about traumas. Dumelang kaofela, ke nna Osrifile. Welcome to another great and exciting episode of GMTV. Thank you again to all the 30,000 subscribers who have actually jumped on to support the channel and to share the content. If you're new to the channel, Sanbonani, welcome. This is going to be your new favorite place to visit. Tell me guys, have any of you guys experienced trauma? Do you know what that is even? Trauma is an event that is very impactful in your life, and it impacts you very negatively, so much so that it can affect the way that you perceive life, yourself, and your surroundings. Trauma is categorized in 3 parts. It is acute, and this is your first encounter in terms of having a traumatic experience. It could be devastating enough for it to have a resounding change over your life. Second is chronic. This means it is repeated and prolonged, something that takes a long time for it to actually stop influencing and affecting your life. That is the second one. Thirdly is complex, and this is something that happens over and over and over and over again, and you can't break out of the cycle of going through this very traumatic experience. So I don't know which one of the 3 that you may regard yourself to be in, but these are the different types that exist. So what could cause you to have trauma? It could be any of the events that I'm going to mention. Either you get separation, you get dumped, or you go through a divorce. It could even be that you're changing houses. You could be living at one part of the country, or you change countries altogether. But essentially, the move in itself would cause a traumatic experience for you. Something else that could cause trauma is rape. It could be a death in the family. It could be a loss of a loved one. All the different kinds of things that you could experience in your life that basically mean that they change the form of how you were before and how you react to it. That process in itself is trauma defined. How do you know if you are struggling and suffering from trauma? Well, you could have addictive habits, such like taking medication to make yourself feel better, sleep better, eat more food because, well, dijo adigene. Let's say you've just gone through a breakup, and you know how that is. You feel like your whole world is crashing down before you. Your best friend just dumped you, doesn't feel like they no longer want to be with you, they no longer can relate to you, and now everything that you used to do with this person, you can do no more because they're no longer there. Now your world feels like it's literally crumbling around you, and you want to close off and hide away into the world. A person that also is struggling with trauma is someone that is quick to anger. I heard actually when I did an interview on TV a few days ago, when we were engaging with some of the panelists over the conversation of trauma, that people that are considered to be the most successful, especially thriving, or even not even successful so much, but the biggest hard workers. So the term here would be a workaholic. A person like that is someone that is struggling with anger and hasn't actually gone through the right processes to help themselves be able to calm down, be less engaged in their work, to really deal with the things that are bothering them. And that is actually an attribute of trauma that you can find in someone who is struggling and always wanting to be hard at work. Something else that you can also notice about yourself is that you are unable to relate with other people, or even being back in a place that is remotely close to what actually traumatized you makes you crumble ridiculous. I could say, for instance, someone who had a very disturbing childhood would be someone that would maybe struggle to even handle an infant or want to be around vulnerable and small babies because they remember a time in their lives when they were at that age and only had negative impact and influence from people around them. So be mindful when you look at the characteristics of yourself, especially pertaining to specific and unique experiences. That's when you find that it actually triggers a part of your brain that says, be negative, close off, don't want to engage. And someone that's easily triggered, you basically can tell that this person at some point or another have actually dealt with a very traumatic experience. Trauma sits on your body. It affects your nervous system. That's why when something that's hectic has just happened, either your car just got smashed and grabbed, you realize that your body starts to shake, it starts to close off, your breathing gets impaired because your nervous system has just taken a massive shock. So while you're going through that, obviously you can't rely on your mind to help you how to get out of that situation. You literally have to wait for the body to release that particular energy. What happens if you don't learn the techniques to help yourself get out of that chain, out of that dark spot that you're in? At that particular time, your mind is racing or it's even closed off and you can't comprehend what's going on around you. It has triggered a stimuli. I want you to know that just because you have gone through a particular instance, maybe like a house robbery or burglary or something like that, and you have found a way of how to deal with it, it doesn't mean that if I go through the same experience as you, that we're going to deal with it the same way. For instance, let's talk about people who have like daddy issues. A girl who grew up in a household where the dad wasn't around or was kind of very toxic, abusing their mom and their siblings. And then a person like that starts dating sugar daddies or like a blesser, someone older or is really, really genuinely interested in older guys. And then you find that a person who's dating a sugar daddy for money and for sexual favors and a person who's dating people that are older than them are trying to compensate for the fact that the dad wasn't there in their lives. So do you understand that these people have two different reactions that could come from having the same traumatic experience as a child? Trauma even affects you when you're young. So sometimes you may find that as an adult, you're actually unable to, be and coexist with other fellow humans in the world because of you haven't dealt with your issues. Better yet, you don't even think that something as like far back as your childhood could literally be that big of an issue that you carry it all the way into your adulthood. There's a phrase that they say that don't bleed out on other people. And that means loosely that there's things that you've gone through in your life that since you haven't dealt with, the only way of how you can actually react or respond to them is by making sure that you carry the same energy and you share it with other people. So if you were raped, you're prone to raping. If you were someone that was bullied or spoken down to, you're going to be prone to bullying and speaking down to other people. So this thing actually manifests itself all over again in your spirit. Something else that you need to learn about the positioning of this tension in terms of trauma in your body is that it literally locks down on your body. So imagine if I'm holding this pillow and my hands are the trauma. If I'm sitting and I'm literally holding down on it and the pillow is your body, until such a time that I can help myself be able to help my body go through its natural processes of loosening itself, relaxing itself, literally helping it unknot itself, the tension is going to remain. So it's important for us to also be mindful of the different ways in which we can help ourselves get out of traumatic stress, or rather the post-traumatic events or the effects that it has left on our bodies. For one, you can do stuff like spiritual work, yoga, meditation, drumming, any of the grounding techniques that we've talked about in previous videos that can help you understand exactly why it's important to ground yourself. We've spoken about chakras, about auras, and even about the depth of how each of them can affect each other, whether you know it or you don't. Something else that you may find that actually happens a lot in Ubungoma is that siakita. We put on we could say a show, we get into our regalias, we sing and we chant, and this could last for hours and even well through the night. Because part of ukugida is for the physical therapy and the vibration that comes from the drum and as well as the singing. We also would be in this trance-like state where our feet are literally stomping on the ground, and part of the stomping is a connection again with the ground. So can you imagine what kind of exercise that would do and what kind of relief would it have on your body? If perhaps ukugida is far-fetched and out of reach for you, then you can go into literally a vigorous dance in your home, whether it's to hip-hop or it's to tribal music, but something that's going to help you literally be able to help yourself unknot it. You know, guys, when you are doing particular, like maybe exercises, especially exercise, endorphins are released and actually activate your mind and your brain to actually help your emotions to be able to feel a lot better, to be more and heightened. Then that's why when you're sick or you are like we are Goisha and you're going through the most at the time that you are, once you get into your bed and your curtains are drawn, in the morning you can't even see the beautiful sun rays shine through your window because you've encapsulated yourself in all this darkness. So that's basically what happens to us in the mental state, and that's why exercise is a very good form that's going to help you get out of the stuckness that you currently feel. I'm very curious to know of the time where you felt that you actually saw your first trigger or your first reaction to any traumatic experience that you had, whether it was rape, you know, GBV, watching your parents grow up being affected by that, or even anything that possibly could have harmed the way that your perspective towards life. Put it in the section below, in the comment section, and let's discuss. You know, there's so much of us that we host in the comment section, and there's so much of commonality that we share as a people. And for us to have GMTV in common, how many other things do we have in common? Let's build a community that we need that will help towards our own healing and help us understand how to become better people. I'm going to slow down the conversation just a tad bit in closing, because I really want you to understand the depth of trauma. I also want you to understand that trauma and spirituality are absolutely linked. As we keep learning about ourselves and we're going through all the different layers of our false self, we lose what we lose, we gain what we gain, and we consciously hold on to the things that help us become our better selves. Take the time to really see yourself in the moments that you find yourself in. Be as present as possible. You can't be anywhere else anyway. You can't be living presently in the past or presently in the future. You have to dedicate yourself to being in the time that you are in. In that way, you can be able to take in the information of how you react, of what you're reacting to, of the place that make you uncomfortable, or what your triggers are. Eventually, that will help you to understand and help yourself go do the work. Remember, guys, it's one thing to understand that something makes you feel uncomfortable or you're being triggered by something. But until you actually sit down with yourself or allow someone to help you hold space for you, whether it's to see a psychologist or someone you can trust, or even that person that was actually the one who was traumatic to you, that all of those things help in becoming a better person. They help you heal. They help you understand how and why that particular event was so devastatingly enormous for your life. Also, remember, just because you've gone through something does not mean that we're going to handle it the same way. Trauma is overwhelmingly negatively impacting on your person, on your body, on your consciousness. Don't skip the steps. Everything has its time. Everything needs its own level of activity and engagement and consciousness to help you get to its awakening. Remember, not everybody's going to be enlightened at the same time. We all fall into enlightenment at our own time, at the right time, triggered by the right event, the right conversation, the right person to hold space for you. So don't by any means try to rush through the processes. It may take a while, it may take a few sessions, it may take one conversation. Hold space for each and every one of the conversations that you need to have, because ultimately it helps to heal. Eventually, I'm going to do a video on helping to heal your inner child. And part of their inner child is the traumas that you experienced as a child, which now are manifesting and showing in your adult time. Thank you for watching this week's episode of GMTV, where we got to talk about trauma and how it affects each and every one of us. Trust, even where I sit, I actually think back and realize that there's things that happened in my life that I haven't dealt with. Some of them I could say is being a kobela, a young kobela at that. It came with its own pressures. It came and found me unprepared. I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't know how to prepare for it. But either way, we have to go through the experiences because they help us grow and become the people we are today. Thank you for tuning into this episode of GMTV. Thokozani.